Are you lost, sweetheart? Staff Sergeant Brooks asked with a condescending smile. The visitor center is upstairs. Alex smiled sweetly and pulled a single sheet of paper from her designer purse. What came out of that soft pink bag before the day was over. That one document would change not just the room, but the life of the entire unit. I'm Alex Rivera from Advanced Military Systems, she said, her voice carrying a slight accent. I'm here to service your communication equipment. Staff Sergeant Mike Brooks had been running the electronics maintenance division for 8 years. But when Alex Rivera walked in at precisely 0800 hours, he was certain there'd been some kind of mistake. She moved with confidence, her toolbox bright pink with her name embroidered in silver letters. Around him, the usual morning activity had ground to a halt. Ma'am, I think there might be some confusion, Brooks said carefully. We're expecting a tech specialist today. But you weren't expecting me, Alex finished with a knowing smile. I get that a lot. She pulled out a thick folder. Here's my work order: satellite communication array, maintenance, tactical radio system upgrades, and classified network security protocols. I'm scheduled for a full week. Brooks scanned the paperwork. Everything looked legitimate, but this woman looked like she belonged in a corporate boardroom, not crawling around inside military electronics. Miss Rivera, these systems are incredibly complex. Are you sure you're qualified for this level of work? Behind her, Private Martinez whispered to his buddy. No way she knows what end of a screwdriver to hold. Alex heard the comment but didn't react. She simply opened her toolbox and began pulling out equipment that made Brooks's eyes widen. Custom-built diagnostic computers, specialized testing equipment, and tools that looked like they'd been designed by NASA. Within seconds, her laptop lit up with diagnostic data. Your primary satellite uplink is operating at 67% efficiency, she said without looking up. You've got a degraded connection in the main antenna assembly, and your encryption protocols are running 2 versions behind current standards. Brooks's jaw dropped. They'd been trying to diagnose those exact problems for weeks. How did you know about the communication failures? Master Sergeant Wilson asked, walking over. Because I wrote the diagnostic software you're using. Version 3.2, installed last month. Wilson studied her more carefully. You wrote the software. I wrote most of the software this base uses. I've been developing military electronics for the past 6 years. 6 years? Brooks scoffed. You don't look old enough to have 6 years of experience in anything. Alex smiled, but there was steel behind it. I'm 29, Sergeant. I started this work when I was 23, fresh out of MIT, with a master's degree in electrical engineering and a direct commission into the Signal Corps. The room went quiet. A direct commission meant she'd been an officer, and MIT meant she was brilliant. You were military? Martinez asked. 3 years active duty, 2 years reserves. I spent most of my deployment overseas, maintaining forward, operating base communication systems. When I got out, I went into contracting because the money was better. What happened next left everyone speechless. Alex Rivera, the woman who'd walked in looking like a fashion model, transformed into something entirely different. She climbed into the communication array like she'd been born there, her movements sure and confident. Martinez, hand me that oscilloscope, she called out. And someone get me a 15mm wrench. Within minutes, she'd identified and begun fixing problems that had been plaguing the system for months. Rivera, Wilson called out. What's your background? I mean, really? Alex paused in her work, looking down at him from inside the array. You want the official version, or the real story? Both. She grinned genuinely for the first time. Official version: MIT graduate, Signal Corps officer, 1 deployment overseas, transitioned to civilian contracting, and the real story. I grew up in a garage in Los Angeles. My dad was a mechanic. My mom was an engineer at JPL. I was fixing cars before I could drive and building computers before I hit puberty. A shower of sparks erupted from the array as she worked. The thing about combat zones is that nobody cares what you look like when the bullets are flying. They only care if you can do your job. So why the fashion show? Brooks asked. Because I spent 3 years in desert camouflage, and when I got out, I decided I wanted to look like myself again. Plus, people underestimate me, which means they leave me alone to work. She emerged from the array, her hair slightly mussed but her makeup still perfect. Test the satellite uplink now. Wilson ran the diagnostic. Holy shit. Sorry ma'am, but we're showing 98% efficiency. The next morning brought a different atmosphere. Instead of skeptical stares, Alex was greeted with respectful nods and genuine smiles. As she worked on the next system, she found herself answering questions from soldiers who gathered around to watch. What's the biggest difference between working in combat and working here? Martinez asked. Here, if I make a mistake, someone gets mad. In combat, if I make a mistake, someone dies. It changes how you approach problems. Wilson approached her. Workstation, ma'am. I wanted to apologize for yesterday. You don't need to apologize. You reacted to what you saw. That's human nature. But I was wrong. The hardest part about being a woman in this field isn't the technical challenges, Alex said. It's the constant need to prove yourself, over and over again. Wilson cleared his throat. Ma'am, what happened overseas? I mean, what really happened? I've worked with a lot of contractors, but I've never seen anyone work like you just did. Alex stared at him for a long moment. You really want to know? July 15th, 2019? Forward operating base in a combat zone. At 0300 hours, we took indirect fire. The first round took out our primary communication array. Suddenly 3,000 soldiers were cut off from the outside world. Her voice grew quieter. The base commander found me trying to get our systems back online. He said, Lieutenant, I need communications restored in 30 minutes, or we're all dead. The main array was destroyed. But to fix the backup system, someone would have to climb the communication tower. During an active firefight, she pulled down her collar, revealing a thin scar. Sniper round, missed me by about 2 inches. But I got the system working in 47 minutes. That's why you got out, Wilson said. Combat stress. No, Master Sergeant. I got out because when I came back, my commanding officer wrote in my evaluation that I had insufficient command presence for future leadership roles. He said I needed to present a more military bearing. The room was silent. I had just spent a year in a combat zone, climbed a tower under enemy fire, and my reward was being told I didn't look like a proper officer. So I got out and went into contracting, where they judged me by my results. On her third day, alarms started blaring throughout. The building emergency lights flashed as soldiers ran through the corridors. We've got a situation, Brooks said urgently. Search and rescue operation in the mountains. Lost hikers, and the weather's turning bad. But our primary communication link to the rescue teams just went down. Alex was already moving toward the main communication array. How long do we have? The storm hits in 2 hours. Without communications, they'll have to call off the search until morning. That's not going to happen, Alex said firmly. Wilson, kill power to the main array. Jenkins, get me the emergency diagnostic kit. Brooks, tell the rescue coordinator we'll have them back online in 30 minutes. What followed was a masterclass in emergency repair work. Alex attacked the communication system with focused intensity, bypassing damaged circuits and solutions that would have made her MIT professors proud. You're going to need to access the antenna coupling on the roof, Wilson called out. But the wind's picking up. Then I better hurry, Alex replied, already heading for the roof access. 20 minutes later, she was back, slightly windblown but smiling. Try it now. The communication array crackled to life, crystal clear signals flowing between the armory and the rescue coordination center. How did you do that? I rerouted the primary data stream through the backup antenna array. It's not pretty, but it'll work. Later that afternoon, word came that the search and rescue operation had been successful. The lost hikers were found and evacuated safely. You saved lives today, Brooks told her. I did my job, Alex replied simply. In combat zones, I learned that there are no routine maintenance calls. Every system you fix matters to someone. The next morning brought unexpected news. Alex arrived to find a black sedan parked outside and 2 people in suits waiting. Ms. Rivera, the woman said, standing as Alex entered. I'm Agent Sarah Chen, Defense Intelligence Agency. We need to speak with you about your security clearance renewal. After the soldiers left, Agent Chen opened a thick folder. The night of July 15, 2019. The official report says you restored communications during an enemy attack, but there's a classified addendum that tells a different story. Alex sat down heavily. What do you want to know? We want to know why you didn't report that you discovered a security breach in the communication systems, why you identified the source of that breach and chose to handle it yourself. Because the breach was coming from inside the base, from someone with legitimate access who was selling information to the enemy. And when you returned stateside, you said nothing. You let that officer retire quietly rather than face court-martial. Alex looked directly at Agent Chen. That officer had 20 years of service and a family. He stopped when I confronted him. Sometimes justice isn't about punishment, it's about preventing future harm. The Defense Intelligence Agency has a proposition for you. We need someone with your technical skills and your flexibility in interpreting regulations. Alex shook her head. I'm not interested in going back to government work, contract work, high-level classified projects. You're wasting your talents on routine maintenance. Can I think about it? Of course. But there's a situation developing that requires someone with your exact skill set. On her last day, Alex arrived to find the soldiers had prepared a small farewell ceremony, complete with a certificate of appreciation. We wanted to thank you, Brooks said, not just for the work you did, but for the lesson you taught us, that we should never assume we know someone's story just by looking at them. As she was loading her equipment, Martinez approached her. Ma'am, my sister is thinking about joining the military. She's really smart, good with technology, but she's worried about fitting in. What would you tell her? Alex considered carefully. I'd tell her that the military needs people who can do the job, regardless of what they look like. And I'd tell her that she should never apologize for being herself. As she drove away, Alex's phone buzzed. A text from Agent Chen. Have you made your decision? Alex pulled over and stared at the message. She thought about the soldiers who had learned to look beyond appearances, the hikers whose lives she'd helped save, The classified work that might let her make an even bigger difference? She typed back, I'll do it, but I have conditions. Name them. I choose my own assignments. I work my own way. And I never compromise on doing what's right. A few minutes later, her phone rang. Ms. Rivera, we have your first assignment. When can you start? Alex looked at herself in the mirror one more time. The woman looking back was still perfectly dressed, still professional, still beautiful. But now she was also someone who had learned that the most important thing wasn't proving she belonged, but being true to herself while doing work that mattered. I can start immediately, she said. 6 months later, the Vermont National Guard Armory's electronics bay was running smoother than it had in years. The soldiers had developed a reputation for being more open-minded, more willing to look beyond first impressions. When the next contractor arrived, a young man who looked more like a college student than a technical expert, Brooks remembered Alex's words. Instead of making assumptions, he simply asked, what can you do? On his desk sat a business card. Alex Rivera. Advanced Technical Solutions. Expert solutions for complex problems. Below her name was a motto that had become the unofficial creed of the electronics bay. Judge us by what we can do, not by what we look like. Sometimes, late at night, Brooks would wonder what Alex was doing now. He'd heard rumors about a contractor who worked on classified projects, someone who could fix impossible problems and work in situations where traditional approaches failed. He hoped she was still being herself, still wearing her designer clothes and perfect makeup, still proving that expertise came in many forms. But most of all, he hoped she was still teaching people the lessons she'd taught them, that the most dangerous assumptions are the ones we make about people who don't look like they belong, because sometimes, those are exactly the people we need most. What did you feel watching this story? When Alex first walked in, did you make assumptions too? Tell us in the comments. Did this story change your perspective? At Quiet Tales Studio, we believe every person has a unique story, and every story has the power to change how we see the world. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because the most powerful stories are the ones that remind us never to judge a book by its cover. Until next time, remember, the person who looks least like they belong might be exactly the person you need.